This is Terraria, and you might have heard of it, even though no, let's be real. Everyone has heard of Terraria at least at some point in their life, because this game is wildly successful after being quote unquote a Minecraft clone. But there's actually so much more to that. So today we'll be discussing if Terraria is good or bad. Let's get into it. So yeah, so this is Terraria, and who am I kidding? This game is insanely good. Even though I said let's see if it's good or bad, it is really good. I mean, there's no debating it, and I will even put people's opinion if it's good or not. I mean, watch this. All right, tell me how good it is.
Don't even explain it to you, little dumbass. You don't know how good this game is. The modding is amazing. The everything. It's a Wikipedia Explorer. Oh my.
Well, can you please elaborate on what you said?
I'm sorry. I just ejaculated on my monitor. We just clean that up. You already, yeah. Just get a little act up when you talk about that game. You already know it. 1,500 hours in it. Played it since the Xbox 360. Knowing that it's on the 3DS, do I even need more to explain? So many classes. There's like 3 different progressions in the game. You get hard mode, and post Moonlord. You get bosses. That's just insane, bro. I'm about a nut.
Now, can you tell me what one flaw is in the game?
One flaw? It's a Wikipedia Explorer. You need to go to Wikipedia at least 12 times, like in your entire playthrough, if you want to have an easier time. But you're gonna have a harder one if you don't use it. That's the only problem because how big it is, how much content there is, how much little stuff you can find.
Okay, thank you. So, with knowing that Terraria is good, let's actually go over the progression that you are going to face when playing Terraria. To start off, you spawn in a 2D world. That's right, it's 2D, it's not 3D, so this isn't Minecraft, it's Terraria. But anyway, your first progression that you should do is explore your land. Doesn't matter where you go, just explore it. Now, you might die, and by might, I mean you will die a lot in this game. But by all means, you need to keep going, keep pushing, and whenever you do explore, you find better loot. You find better things to make you go further than you went. And which, with each progression, you'll make it to the beach, and after you explore the beach, that's how you know you explored the whole world, because there's 2 beaches on both ends. Anyway, after all of that's done, you then head back to your actual spawn location, and you make a base for all of your NPCs to live in. After the update of 1.4 Journey's End, Terraria added a NPC living situation to where there's happiness meters, and then after the happiness meter is full, you get a thing called a pylon to help you traverse through your worlds easier. Then once you got all of your NPCs good to go, you can then explore the underground cave system. You're going to find better loot, better things, and then even a Eye of Cthulhu spawner, which is the first boss you should fight. But just in case this world event happens where slimes are falling from the sky, you'll then fight King Slime. Now don't worry, they're not hard at all, unless you suck at the game like myself, but you never know. And then whenever you defeat those bosses, you then unlock other things, which then unlocks other things. There's just a bunch of things to unlock. So I'm going to go down the line of the timeline, or whatever you want to call it, to progress through the game. So like I said before, once you finish building the NPCs' houses, you then have to go fight the bosses to then unlock more NPCs, which then unlocks more stuff. It's crazy how much stuff you have to do to unlock in this game, but it's fun because it's progression. I mean, who doesn't like progression? To see yourself go from a weak simpleton to a very strong macho kind of guy. So anyway, after you defeat Eye of Cthulhu or King Slime, you then are going to have either two of the corruptions, or one of the 2 corruptions, which is going to be either Crimson or the Corruption. Now, these corruptions are going to have very strong enemies whenever you first encounter them, so be careful. But other than that, they're going to have fun boss fights. One of our favorite things and our meaning me and my friends, one of our favorite things or favorite bosses to fight is Brain of Cthulhu, which is a giant brain that has a heart in the center. It's very weird. And then the corruption side has the World Eater. It is basically a giant worm. Yeah. So anyway, after you defeat those guys, you are then strong enough to either defeat Queen Bee or Skeletron Prime. Not Prime, Skeletron. That's another boss. Queen Bee is going to be found in the jungle in a beehive. After you break her little stasis that she's in, she then gets mad and fights you. And you don't get that good of stuff from her except for Bee Nades, which is used very well. Bee Nades are incredible, and I think everyone should use them on their playthrough. But yeah. And then after you defeat Queen Bee, go off to fight Skeletron, which then unlocks the dungeon, which you get to find better things, and you get to have a better time. And then once you defeat Skeletron, you should have already done this, and if you haven't, then they're gonna pop up some way. The Goblin Army. The Goblin Army is an army of goblins, which is basically what it sounds like. But the Goblin Army is a very good thing to happen, but a very difficult thing to do. So basically, a bunch of army of goblins are going to show up after you defeat them all. You're going to be able to find a guy named the Goblin Tinkerer. He's going to sell two very good things and be very useful through the rest of the game, because he reforges your equipment. The Goblin Tinkerer will make your things better, your accessories better, your weapons better. Everything this guy does is just better at the cost of sucking money like a hungry goblin. Yeah. But the two things that he does sell are very important, which is the rocket boots, which allows flight, and the Goblin Tinkerer's Workshop. The Tinkerer's Workshop allows you to combine accessories so you don't have to pick and choose which accessories to have, and you can combine them both to get both of their effects. Like the two things that you should already have, Hermes boots and the rocket boots, you can combine them into the Spectre boots, which you get to run really fast and fly. Who doesn't like that? Then after you get all of this done, you should then go down to hell. There is an actual hell in this game, and once you make your hell elevator, you should then make your hell bridge. Your hell bridge is going to be helpful against fighting the pre-hard mode final boss, which is the Wall of Flesh. This Wall of Flesh is no laughing matter. He is a very tough boss, because it's basically challenging you to see if you can even do anything in hard mode. So basically, you want to cheese this as much as possible, because the Wall of Flesh is no laughing matter. After it takes a very significant amount of damage, it will then speed up, and speed up until it catches you, and if it catches you, you're basically done. And you can't teleport to the surface because it'll insta-kill you, and you have to defeat this. Now, to summon the Wall of Flesh, you have to sacrifice your guide. In the hell, you're going to find things called guide voodoo demons. They have a voodoo doll of your guide, and you throw it into lava, and that's how you unlock it. Now, after you defeat the Wall of Flesh, you then let out the world's, I think it says evil, dark and light. You unlock the world's dark and light, which is basically a new biome called the Hollow, and it buffs your world's corruption. Now, these things are going to give you different kinds of accessories, but it's going to give you two important things. It's going to give you Souls of Light and Souls of Night. These Souls of Light and Night can be used to craft a wide spectrum of things, just a wide, vast majority of things, including the three bosses that you gotta fight immediately to progress through the game. They're going to be called Twins, the Destroyer, and Skeletron Prime. They're basically metal versions of the Eye of Cthulhu, the Destroyer, and Skeletron. So once you defeat those, you then unlock the Steampunker and the Jungle Grows Restlessly. Now, with the jungle growing restlessly, you then unlock more things. Who would have guessed it? You unlock very, I want to say okay things, because, I mean, you get a new armor set if you are doing your own, like, if you're doing a very specific class. But other than that, you would get a thing called Life Fruit, which goes from your uh, average health of being 400 to 500, and the ore is chlorophyte. But the most important thing is you're gonna find a little bulb, a plant bulb that is moving. That's gonna be your next boss called Plant Terra. Plant Terra is a very, 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 very hard, but also very, very, very fun Terraria boss. It has the best theme in the game as well. Now, once you defeat Plantera, you then unlock the jungle dungeon's key, which you can go unlock it and then fight Golem. But Golem is in the jungle dungeon and or jungle temple and is surrounded by a vast majority of traps and lizard people. Now, when you kill these lizard people, they're gonna drop soul tablet fragments, which you can then unlock the solar eclipse, which is a world event which spawns solar eclipse enemies, or basically what I like to call Halloween enemies that should have put in the Halloween event, but I don't care. They're fun either way. These things are going to unlock even more things, and it's just going to be a fun time. I mean, it's hard, but it's also fun. And then, not to mention, I mean, the Golem is a hard boss. So once you defeat Golem, and it's going to take a couple tries, trust me, depending if you get a good Golem arena, you're gonna unlock. No, you're not gonna unlock. You're gonna have a text pop up saying there are screams in the dungeon. Now the dungeon is then buffed, added more enemies and more things that you can get. Meaning, and this thing will go forever until you then decide to fight the cultist, which will be standing outside of the dungeon. It's going to be standing outside of the dungeon. Now, once you defeat the cultists, you are then going to be in a world event that's not skippable until you defeat all of the world, until you defeat the world event. Usually world events are going to be over after you kill a certain amount of enemies. These things will be gone once you kill them. These things are going to be called the Celestial Pillars. They're pillars that came from outer space, or I think, really they are just pillars that have a bunch of bullshit enemies. I'm going to say it. They have a bunch of bullshit enemies. After that, you then are going to be able to craft better weapons, and celestial weapons, in fact, and you're going to immediately face Moonlord. Moonlord is the final boss of the game, and once you defeat him, you basically can do whatever you want. There's no stopping you to doing whatever you want, really. And with this, I mean, you could just have you get better accessories, better armor, better weapons, and then you can torture yourself by saying, I'm going to complete Terraria to the fullest, or you can just say, done. It really is up to you. Now, if you are just here to find out what you have to do to, or what is the final boss, the video is over for you here. But if you want to find out what is next, and what you can do after you defeat Moonlord, or what you can do before you defeat Moonlord, and a bunch of other stuff, I'm going to keep talking about it. So you decided to stay after all. So what's going to happen is, basically, there are two side bosses before or after you defeat Moonlord, because they're available no matter what. It's called Duke Fishron and Empress of Light. These two bosses are optional, but they will give you better loot than your average boss. So let's start with the Duke Fishron, which is actually my favorite boss in the game. Duke Fishron is summonable by grabbing a truffle worm in the underground shroom biome. Once you get a truffle worm, go to the beach of either side of your map, and then get a fishing rod, and you've already started it. Now, what's going to happen is this giant shark, fish, whatever you want to think it is going to spawn, and it's going to wreak havoc. If you have not done this before Moonlord, you're going to have a rough time, depending on what stage you're going to be doing it in. But if you're prepared, like most people are when playing this game, you're going to have a clean boss fight, but a difficult one at that. And after you defeat him, there's really nothing that changes. Just like with Empress of Light, whenever you defeat her, nothing changes. But with Empress of Light, there are two modes that you can do. Empress of Light is a very interesting boss. You have to spawn her in the hollow after killing a glowing butterfly. And with this, you then are treated to two boss fights. I want to say two boss fights depending on what time of day you decided to fight her on. If you fought her during the night, it's going to be a tough boss, but you're not going to get insta killed unlike if you fight it during the night or day. If you fight Empress of Light during the day, you can get insta killed by any of her attacks, but if you kill her during the day, you unlock the best summon weapon in the game called the Terra Prisma, which is the best summon weapon. Now, that's all of Terraria's game progression. There are a couple things that I didn't explain or didn't say, and that's because they don't really matter towards the game's progression. But I think you should experience it for yourself if you know what I'm talking about. But if you just want to see if it's good or bad, I already said it. It's a great game. Recommend it to anyone who plays it. So yeah, hopefully you guys had a good day, and I'll see you guys on the next game that I decide to talk about.